Hi, Jennifer Villarreal here.
Hi, Rocio Vallejo.
This is the Sales from the Heart Show, the place where business meets heart and soul. And, today we have a few questions for you. Do you find that at the end of your day, you're feeling drained and overwhelmed, maybe a little bit exhausted? Or maybe it's at the beginning of your day.
That might be it.
Okay. Maybe you find yourself saying yes a lot to people and attending events, right? And then do you find yourself somehow overcommitting and doing things that maybe you don't really want to do?
I think I've answered yes to all of those.
Have you?
I have, yes.
Well, our producer over here is going like this.
He's raising his hand.
Are you raising your hand as well? All right. So if you've answered yes to any of these, and we might have a few more questions for you as well, it probably means that you might have a little bit of an issue with something that we call
boundaries.
Yes, boundaries. We're not just talking about people invading your space. Okay. We're also talking about those things that we communicate verbally as well. And sometimes it's stuff that we can overcommit to, but it's also stuff that we have to look at within. And so we're going to dive into a few tips on building and maintaining these boundaries today. So, Rocio, what is something that comes to mind for you when we're, when we can't set good boundaries?
I think it's first knowing, right here, it's name your limits, which is something I think that we've discussed because I know I have an issue with boundaries as well. And I think you asked me what it was that I felt, right? Mm-hmm. It was, where do you stand? Mm-hmm. So if you don't want, what about working with this person? Do you not like? And I sometimes don't always know that. Mm-hmm. So just being unsure.
Yeah. So then knowing where your boundaries actually are, knowing what your limits are, and if we're not clear about that, then how can we make that clear to other people out there? Also, it means that we have to look within and really make a healthy assessment here and an honest assessment. Are you overcommitting in regards to events, like we said? Maybe it has to do with overspending. Overeating, maybe you're on social media way too much. Maybe you're not being clear with yourself and your own limits, so then other people are unclear what your limits are, and they're constantly emailing you. They're constantly sending you messages via text and just zapping that energy and just consuming because you're allowing them to do that.
To take, right?
Yes, exactly.
People will just take, and push you they'll push you to your limit. So if you don't set your limit, they'll definitely push you and get you there.
Yeah, and a lot of times in business, we see this as well because people say, well, you know what? I need every ounce of business that I can get right now. I'm just starting out. I need the money. I have the bills to pay. And then all of a sudden, you're accepting clients that you wouldn't normally work with.
Right.
And so if you it's probably costing you more money to do that because they're consuming and zapping your energy. They're taking your time. And you think, well, I just need, some money now to get me through and then I can get rid of them later. It doesn't work like that, right? So we need to make those limits really, really clear. Does that make sense? Definitely? Okay. Yeah. So you touched on the next thing here where we have to tune in to our feelings.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of, doing just what you feel. Our feelings and emotions can be very manipulative, but we have to own them. We have to manage those emotions that come through. But it is important to tune in and to know when you feel like you're not being appreciated.
Or if you're feeling uncomfortable.
Yep.
Or taken for granted.
Yeah.
I think those sometimes are signs. So if we can't name or limit our boundaries, right, or name our limits, then tuning into those feelings to maybe use as a stepping stone to start to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
You might feel guilty for saying no to somebody, or you feel compelled to respond to that message right away, and you have to know yourself. Yet, so there's that fine line of when we're going to push beyond our limits, right? And when we're overdoing it, and when that burnout starts to set in. Does that make sense too?
Definitely.
All right. So I think also we need to be responsible for ourselves. We need to be responsible for loving us, right? And then also, of course, loving others. And you have that power to agree with the truth about your own problems and the things that are overdoing it. And a lot of times we want to look at everybody else. They're the cause of our problem. They're the ones that are pushing us beyond. They're the ones that are bullying us or making, these demands on us. But where does our level of responsibility come in? And I would say also humbling ourselves to understand that we don't have to put all this pressure on ourselves.
Right. Definitely.
Okay. And turn to that higher power, what we call God, right? And ask for that guidance. Ask for the ability to release what's in your heart, that fear, the resentment that's going on, the things that keep us trapped, and how to break free from that, and to give you and fill you up with that unconditional love to be able to handle and confront those situations.
Good. Okay, so the third one would be learn to be direct. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. So I think with being direct, that also talks about saying no. And a lot of times people have a problem with saying no because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or they imagine themselves in that situation.
Right. Or they feel a sense of obligation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Can you think of some examples where you've heard of other people that have been placed in situations like that, or maybe even yourself, that we can relate to our viewers today?
Right. I think with me, and I think my personal issue with boundaries stems from this place of I just live by that golden rule. You treat others the way you want to be treated. And so I tend to give a lot of myself because I put myself in the shoes of the other person. And so if this was, if I were this person asking for, for help, would I want to receive, that help? Would I want that person to say yes? Well, yeah, definitely. And so that's where I know I come from. And that's where my struggle is.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. And I think, too, when we start to judge other people for saying yes or no, then we think that others are going to judge us the same way.
Right.
And then that makes it more difficult, and we start to people please. We start to chase and try to convince people of how great we are, or we want that love and support from them. Right. And so, again, taking that honest assessment of, am I feeling a little empty inside? Am I feeling that I need the approval from other people? And we talked about this on the previous shows as well, of putting people on this pedestal, or having these high expectations, and right. They're human. Right? Or we expect them out of something more superficial that's not a person, right? And we think this is going to be the be-all, end-all answer. And that's why we always go back to that firm foundation, whatever that is for you, to understand how we are unconditionally loved, to understand who we truly are. And then all of a sudden we, instead of chasing all these people or these other things, we're chasing God, right?
Right. And just because you say no, I think doesn't necessarily mean that it's all or nothing. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you may not be able to, do this one thing for this person, but, you can maybe do this. So you can attend their event, but hey, I'll share the information, or I'll pass the information along, so you can still show a sense of support.
Right.
Without
feeling that guilt.
That guilt.
I think that leads into the fourth thing, where we give ourselves permission. That ties right into that. And giving yourself permissions to work within those boundaries that you set up. And so maybe it's not a complete no, but you meet halfway, but the boundaries are still clear. And I think it's really important to establish, why boundaries exist. A lot of times people think it's just to shield people away, but it's also to explain so people know what those clear expectations are, what your responsibilities are, what their responsibilities are, what's to keep you also protected, as well as in that happy state to be able to serve, be able to give to other people. Right. And then also to know, hey, this is not allowed. And you don't have to deal with all the drama that comes with having those blurry lines.
Right, definitely. And I think, your health and your sanity is most important. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. I think it also brings a sense of freedom. We want to constantly give, but at some point then we start to deplete ourselves as well. So it's really important to make sure that you fill up and you fill up with something that is going to allow you to continue to serve and give to other people. But we have to focus not on the fact that we're going to lose the love or the relationship from other people, or maybe it's a particular business transaction, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, but we need this so bad. When you're counting on that one thing or that one person, we probably have to evaluate what our priorities really are and why is it? Why is it just banking on that one thing? Why are we doubting that we're going to receive something else from an unexpected, source or person? And we're living in that state of lack and that state of fear.
Right.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Okay. Should we go into the fifth one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So practice self-awareness. So honing in on your feelings and honoring them, defining your expectations and your desired outcomes.
Yeah. So that self-awareness, again, that comes back to understanding who you truly are, right? Understanding where your resources are really coming from. And I know this sounds kind of repetitive, and maybe not all of you have tuned into all the previous shows that we've done or, read some of the material that I have out there, or maybe we haven't had a conversation one-on-one, but this is really the foundation, that self-awareness, going back and connecting those dots, understanding what was triggering us in the first place to feel that, we need to prove ourselves to other people, that we need to constantly give or be walked over on. It's really what ties into the next thing, which is considering our past and our present, right? Think about the role that you were raised in within your family. Maybe the order of your siblings,
Yeah.
right?
I believe in that.
Yeah. And maybe even, your parents, what kind of boundaries did they set with you or not set with you? And how is that shaping you today? Yeah. And, is there also that equal balance with giving and receiving as well? So do that inventory, take that check and to see what you're doing. I think a lot of times also in business, it's, we're told like as, customer service, as sales professionals, that we have to prove ourselves first and we have to convince people to do business with us. I don't have that model. I don't teach that model. I'm not here to convince, convert, or even condemn others, but I am here to help people make a decision. I believe that you should present yourself as an expert and authority in what you do, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean trying to manipulate or convince somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're kind of quiet today, Rocio.
I am kind of quiet.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we really...
I woke up, I think, on the wrong side of the bed.
Okay. What side of the bed was that? Like, did you crawl out from underneath the bed?
I did. No.
Was there a monster lurking under there? Or maybe we just consumed a lot of emotion last week's show, and I just want to commend you for being just true in who you are.
Thanks.
Right? And this is another part of who you are. We don't always have these moments where we wake up smiley and, yay. We don't put that phoniness here. We keep it real.
Right.
So that's all right.
So I'm going to sit here and frown.
You just smiled.
And
That's all right. That's all right. So, I think this leads into the next thing is making our self-care a priority. And so that's something that we're going to do after the show, right? That might turn that frown around into a smile. So maybe it's getting a massage.
Yes.
Hint, hint.
Yes.
That's where we're going. Maybe even getting an adjustment or acupuncture. Sometimes we can process things here. But then also our body hangs on to a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And if that tension has been building up in our body and it's, our spine and the nerves and all these things, that plays a role as well. And so we want to look at it from a holistic standpoint. And that's the importance of tuning into our body, our mind, our spirit,
Right,
all of that together.
And I think if you're always saying yes to other people, you tend to kind of, put yourself on the back burner. And back to that, making yourself a priority is definitely important.
Right. And how can you give to other people when you can't give to yourself? We've all heard it before. We've heard the whole analogy of, when the plane's going down, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before your child. And it's hard to do when when we see those loved ones right there.
And it isn't easy. I think, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a mother, as a wife, for me, putting myself before anybody or anything is really difficult. And sometimes I think it's and this is may be the topic of another show, but sometimes I just don't think I have the time. But it's saying yes. It's the saying yes and not creating these boundaries.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think we hear this a lot about, I need time management. I need time management, but it's really, there's no such thing. We all have the same amount of hours and days, et cetera. But it's more so about your behavior management, right? And that comes back to understanding that self-care, understanding our character too of what we're saying and committing to, and are we trying to people please? And at some point then, that burnout sets in. So it's important to remember that we break down this time into understanding that our work is eternal. It's not just here on this planet. And if you don't believe that anything happens beyond that, well, maybe you can shift your thoughts into understanding that you have an abundance of time while you are here, right? And so when we do that, it releases the pressure on our shoulders and puts all the weight on us. And remember, it's not really about you. When we think that we have to do everything and that we have to control everything, then all of a sudden we start becoming our own mini gods again, right? And quite frankly, I know I sucked at it. And I finally had that breakdown, right? And then I realized it's not about me. It's allowing that message and that work to be done through me and to share with other people. But I also need to fill up as well. I can't just constantly keep giving. So I think we're on tip number 8 now.
Yeah. So if you're finding that you're having a hard time setting boundaries, seek some kind of support, some kind of help. Coach. I have myself a coach. It definitely helps. Mm-hmm. It helps because I know that working with you, this is just one of the many things on the list that I've discovered about myself. Mm-hmm. There was always those things that I kind of already knew, but I would just always, I would say, well, this is me. This is how I am. This is how I've always been. If you don't like it, then, that's your problem. But that's not really how I feel. And there were a lot of things that I didn't like. And I've said this, I think, several times on a couple of the other shows, but one of the first conversations that we have, I knew that you had these boundaries. And that was one of the things I was like, okay, like she has this quality and these qualities that I know that I need to work on it. And this is why I think it'll be a great fit.
Right. And so some of the ways that those boundaries can come through for you in business and then tie over into your relationships at home, et cetera, is being pulled in too many directions by your clients. Or somebody tells you, hey, can we meet up in person? And here you are running from one end of town to the other end of town. Somebody saying, I want to work with you, but these are my terms. It's your business. You get to set those parameters. Also, sometimes people just aren't aware of the demands that they're making on you. They're just used to that's how it is and that's how other people do it with them. And so there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is what I know works best for my clients as well as myself. And if they don't like it, that's okay. We're not here for everyone. I'm definitely not for everyone.
Right.
Right. And then, but sometimes we also don't think that we deserve to work with somebody or deserve this help, or we think we don't have the financial means for it. And then we say no to an idea before we explore it even further. And sometimes when I speak with people, it's not a fit for us to work together, but I can point them in a direction of someone else, or maybe it's a book, or maybe it's a different program, whatever it may be. There's no coincidence to those divine connections that start to come together. And we've said this before on the show, there's no coincidence as to how we met, the introductions that made that happen. But really, I give my thanks to my Heavenly Father for connecting us. And for you, again, it can be however that shows up for you to use your gifts and to share with other people. Because when we have that block there, when we're feeling like overwhelmed, there's definitely a lesson there for us to have that breakthrough, for us to be able to share that with other people. And that's how then we turn that around into something really powerful.
Yeah. I want to just give a quick example. So we were saying, you know, when you tend to give, or you find that you're working with people that are demanding. So, you know, before we met, I was in the beginning stages of launching my business. I was training for the marathon. I was a board member for an organization. I had several other projects going on. And everyone was just so used to me saying, yes, yes, I'll be there. Yes, I'll make it happen. Yes, I'll email it. Yes, 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 yes. And I burnt out. And what good are you going to do when you've already reached maximum, you know, I don't know, capacity, you know, and you've completely burnt out. But I remember I was so burnt out parking in front of my house and getting out of my car to walk inside. And my aunt drove by with her son, who's the same age as my daughter. They go to the same school. And she was like, Rocio, where's Sophia? And I was like, oh my gosh. I completely forgot that I had to pick her up at school. But I was just so depleted. So it's not healthy.
Yeah.
You know,
at least you didn't leave her on the hood of your car like a cup of coffee. So it could be worse.
right.
Yeah. But if you find yourself like running around in just that zombie mode, right?
Yeah.
And on autopilot, if you go to an event and people start to tell you, hey, what's wrong? You look stressed, or no, this is just the way my face looks. No, you're carrying this pressure all around you. If you're grinding your teeth at night, you can't sleep well at night. It might not be because you drank 10 cups of coffee. I mean, it could also be the fact of, why are you drinking those 10 cups of coffee? Why are you tossing and turning and thinking so much at night? And who is putting these demands and these pressures on you? Is it just yourself? Is it other people? Are you thinking that, oh my gosh, I need to provide for my family. I need to do this. I need to do that. Sorry, you're not your sole provider. And I know that's like, what? How does that make sense? Connect with me. We'll break as a complimentary gift, to people on occasion. So remember to email me at info@salesfromtheheart.com. And also stay connected here, plug in, subscribe to our YouTube channels, and we'll be happy to share more insights with you. So just message us your questions, all right? But I think that also leads into being more assertive. It's not enough to just create those boundaries, but we also have to actually follow through and implement these things.
Right.
And so we've recently had some encounters where just even communicating with somebody, it can bring up some of that fear or that rejection or, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this opportunity then. And that's where it comes in to be able to work that out with somebody.
Right. And I think definitely recognizing recognizing that you are of value and that you are of worth, just because you are who you are. And so, I feel like this is something that I've learned, but that you don't have to hang on to that fear of what setting a boundary will do. I know that I was very fearful that if I created these boundaries or if I set these boundaries, that I would turn this person off, and I would risk the opportunity. But you know what? I'm definitely an asset, because if it weren't for me, this business or this opportunity wouldn't happen.
Right.
I'm the one that has the experience. So
it's evaluating and understanding your worth, going back and understanding that, the way that somebody else is handling this might not even have to do with you. They might have something personal going on. They might be going through a divorce. Maybe their business is tanking. Maybe a family member is dying. I mean, either way, it doesn't make it excusable if you set your boundaries here. You can still have empathy and understanding, but I'm sorry, it's not a fit for you, right? And so I think it's really important that you also explain what your expectations, what your needs are, right, to other people. Be very clear about that, and also be clear about what that is for you.
Right. And I know that one thing that I personally struggled with, and maybe some of you out there can relate, is how assertive is assertive. So how detailed do you get with your boundaries? Does it depend on the person that you are dealing with? So do you set dates?
Right.
Do you set
Times.
How detailed do you get? And it's a learning process, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were talking about this recently, and Jennifer was like, Rocio, until you learn to master this, these things will keep presenting themselves to you, in different areas of your life. And I was like,
No. Right.
so I have to master this now.
Right. And we all have something.
Yeah.
So, and it's also, how are we feeding that?
Right.
My pattern had been dealing with, and I know this is more of a psychological term, extreme narcissists, or maybe we want to refer to them as energy vampires, or people that just constantly drain you, or you feel that you have to, they constantly are questioning you, or never, anything that you do is never good enough, or, it's, there's no win-win here with these people, right? And so this has been a pattern that had reoccurred, but you know what? It was time again for me to say, okay, what's the next level here? What's the next level of wisdom? And also, what's that next level of love? Sometimes we think we can't learn anymore. We can't receive anymore of that growth spiritually. And I mean, even just in the last 24 hours, some of the insight that has come through and some of the things that I committed to over the next couple weeks to make sure that I say, you know what? This is coming up. This is coming up for my clients. I'm seeing it a lot more. Maybe it's actually for me to experience and grow more so I can give more to those people, right? And maybe I was just here, and now I'm going to discover and learn something that's up here.
Right.
So there's definitely these things that we all have, and I want to encourage you to start small, to assess what some of these things are for you, and taking ownership of this, really understanding what is this really costing me to not establish these boundaries, from health, financially, relationships, spiritually.
Time away from your family.
Yeah, time away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different components where it ties in. And a lot of times, people will say, Jennifer, what does this have to do with business? It has everything.
Yes.
Everything to do with business, because you know what? You'll be so preoccupied into what's going on with your situation, or so drained by it, that you won't see all these opportunities here. A lot of times people come to me and say, you know what? I just need to get more leads. I need more leads. Really? You can't even see what's in front of you, right? Because you think like that's going to be the be all end all answer, that money is going to solve your problem, that increased business is going to solve your problem, when you can barely handle what's right in front of you.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I lost my train of thought. There was something important that I wanted to say. But no, definitely starting small.
Yeah. Starting small, seeking resources, seeking help out there. And
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
you're crossing the boundary right
learning-
here by touching me.
Learning to pause. And just it's okay to take a second. That's something that I think, you've suggested that I do, because I tend to just go and go with my mouth and everything. But it's okay to just stop for a second.
Yeah.
And think and process and then act.
Yeah.
I'm really quick to give quick responses. I don't know why.
Right. Well,
But,
it's because we get in that defensive state.
Right.
Or we just want to solve it like that. See, some people want to solve a situation like that, but they're not thinking it through, or what they're sending right away. It's based on that emotional reaction.
Right.
And then there's other people who actually retreat, and they think, okay, this is going to go away if I just don't talk about it.
Right. And I know that if I'm in a great mood and you text me asking me for something, oh yeah, definitely. Everything is yes. If I'm like really happy, I'm just having a great day, and you text me, I don't know, can you send me the moon? Yeah, definitely. I'll try and make it happen. It's really bad.
That's true. That's a really good point. And that's where, again, we want to come back to that neutral state. We don't want to be led by our emotions all the time. We want to lead them. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're being robotic, right? But we're just tapping into that true essence. And it's something that took me many, many years, and I still have my moments where I can regress back to, and somebody just keeps pushing that button. And then all of a sudden that fear comes up for me for, oh my gosh, am I going to react this way like how I did in the past? Or I haven't had an episode like that. So, oh, I'm afraid that this is going to happen. So then what? We isolate, we retreat. And then that's when the funk starts setting in. We can go into that depression, especially if you're social and you want to be out and about, right? And we try to solve it on our own. And the first thing that I needed to do was, again, just get on my knees, have that conversation, humble myself, pray on it, right? And receive that wisdom. And it's so amazing, that peace that can come through. And yes, do I have my people that I can reach out to, a handful of people that I would go to? Yes. But first, the thing that everybody, each one of those people that I would go to, the first thing that they say is, have you connected spiritually on this? And a lot of times when I'm straying away or I'm going through something like this, it's again, I'm trying to solve this all on my own instead of releasing that and surrendering. So
I found this to be very helpful, especially since it's something that I know that I'm working on.
Yeah.
As we speak. So
I think it's actually because the minutes are counting down before you get a rub down from a massage. No, I'm just kidding. It's good that you're treating yourself, and it's something that's, I think, been long overdue. And we think, oh my gosh, I can't do that until I do this. And sometimes we have to do it the other way around because that's going to make us more productive. It's going to put us in that zone.
Yeah, and it's so bad because I've had this horrible neck and back pain for such a long time. And I kept saying, once this project or whatever gets finalized, once it gets finalized, then I'll go, then I'll treat myself. But I can't wait anymore.
Right.
I can't. I'm in so much pain. So.
Right. So we want to encourage you to know and establish what those boundaries are for you. We would love to hear more about that. So please send an email to info@salesfromtheheart.com. You can also find us on live, Planeta X, Sales from the Heart on YouTube. We're here for you. So don't just tune in to watch our videos. Communicate with us as well.
Definitely. And I want to thank everyone that has reached out and made it a point to share, the impact that some of these shows have made on them. It feels good to know that, we're not here just talking into a camera.
Right.
No one is listening. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. Thank you for your support, and tune in next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye, everyone. Yeah, now I'm in a better mood.